to be able to answer the questions why I went to different schools for different terms or different years. And maybe I'll use this opportunity to send out a message to all the people out there, especially the poor, the struggling young men and women who are living in the conditions that I've lived in. Don't be ashamed of yourself. It is okay. It is okay to hustle. Many of you cannot afford school fees. I was driving past Kololo SS, my former school, in exam time, and I saw young boys and girls, the same life that I used to live. Exam time, but they're locked outside the gate because they did not pay school fees. It's not that they don't want to school. They wouldn't have gone to stop the gate man. Many of us had to jump the fence to go to school. Many of us would go into an exam room an hour later. Many of us missed our favorite exams because we did not pay school fees at the right time. So when I see people laughing at the circumstances under which I personally failed to do some exams or failed to pass other exams, you cannot understand it. It is only who feels it that knows it. This is a message to you, ghetto youth. Don't give up, man. Don't give up. You're facing that, but it's preparing you for the future. It is preparing you for a time like this one. If I didn't go through that, I would not be as hard as I am today. So take heart. You are doing the right thing. Don't give up. Just make sure you study. Make sure you get that qualification under whatever circumstances. You are going to need it. I've said it before and I say it again, that the world is not looking for a man who can explain why he did not do something. The world is looking for a man that did something, no matter how you did it. So, if you see anybody doubting you, anybody trying to beat you down, point at me as an example. For keeping you waiting. I was supposed to address you at 10 o'clock sharp. Unfortunately, this morning we had one or two challenges that would not allow us to be here in time. Kindly take our apologies because we do not take your time for granted. Many of us already know that this is meant to derail us, to take our important time that would have addressed furthering our struggle, and to cast doubt in our credibility and trust, and of course to affect our public image. However, I'm coming out to address this because I know that baseless as it is, if it's constantly heard without being addressed, there's a possibility that it will maybe be able to fool our gullible supporters. So here we are. I will address this statement in two languages. First in English and also in Luganda. Thereafter, we shall entertain some questions. Let me begin by giving a background. In 1999, when Dr. Kizza Besigye published a letter criticizing the Museveni regime, his life changed immediately and forever. He was arraigned before the military court-martial for apparently airing his views in a wrong forum. In October 2000, he announced that he would run for president in the 2001 general election. Now, if the letter had brought him problems, the declaration that he would challenge President Museveni in an election turned him into the #1 enemy of Museveni and all state institutions in Uganda. This has been the case for the last 20 years. In June 2001, a few months after the election, Dr. Besigye was arrested and questioned over treason. The Museveni regime claimed he was training rebels in the Democratic Republic. Soon after this, he was released. But against his life increased, and he was forced to run away into exile, where he spent 4 years. In 2005, when he returned to Uganda to participate in the 2006 election, as soon as the campaign started, he was quickly arrested and charged with treason and rape. In charging him with treason, the regime claimed that he had links with the PRA rebels. They also claimed that he was connected to Joseph Kony and the Lord's Resistance Army. Regarding the rape case, the regime claimed that in 1997, 9 years earlier, he had raped a daughter of a deceased colleague, Ewan Joanita Chawali Chakua. Years later, High Court Judge John Bosco Katutsi dismissed the rape charges as contemptible and as a clear case of persecution by the regime. It should be remembered that that rape case was prosecuted by the current chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Justice Simon Byabaka Mamujenyi. General Kaihura and the present Uganda Revenue Authority Commissioner General, Mr. Musingu Zirujochi, played a critical role in that case. On 16 November 2005, Dr. Besigye and his co-accused persons were taken to the High Court for bail applications. As the hearing was proceeding, armed security men dressed in black raided the court. They surrounded the building and the holding cells in which the successful bail applicants were waiting to be released. As a result of this action, the bail papers could not be processed. The army men, infamously known as the Black Mamba, entered the offices at court and interrupted the processing of the bail. The accused were returned to jail. The army spokesperson at that time, Major Felix Kulaije, told the nation that the Black Mambas had been deployed to rearrest the suspects in case they had been granted bail by the High Court, in order to ensure that they face new charges that had been brought against them in the General Court Martial. The population reacted with anger to these clearly trumped-up charges and the persecution. The regime responded by banning all public gatherings, rallies, demonstrations related to this trial, etc. Dr. James Nsababutulo, the then Minister of Information, banned all talk shows in the media and banned all media debates on that matter. And yes, he was quoted as stating that the Broadcasting Council would cancel the licenses of any media house that did not take heed of the ban. When Justice John Bosco Katutsi issued orders against the continued detention and trial of Dr. Besigye and others in the General Court Martial, General Eri Tumwine defied the court. He defied that court order and continued the trial. When the Constitutional Court made further orders against Dr. Besigye's persecution, disguised as prosecution, Museveni vowed to fight the court ruling both legally and politically by appointing what he called cadre judges to the bench. Dr. Besigye would end up being nominated for the 2006 presidential election in jail. Since then, the trials and tribulations of Dr. Besigye, and indeed all those who fought alongside him, have been long and unending. He has since lost count of the numbers that he has been arrested and detained illegally. All of the charges that have been put on him, he has never been convicted with even one. 7, his brother Joseph Musasi Zichifefe died under unclear circumstances after spending several years in jail, having been charged with treason and many other charges. Many other Ugandans lost lives in hundreds, if not thousands, as a result of the struggles for freedom and democracy championed by Dr. Kizza Besigye and his fellow strugglers. Indeed, the husband of our Deputy President in the National Unity Platform, our Deputy President in charge of Northern Uganda, Mr. Roxen Zedriga, has been missing for 20 years now. In February 2006, the state lined up one Mr. Moses Kizige, a member of parliament for Bugabula County and a former presidential advisor, to petition against Dr. Besigye's academic credentials. The petitioner claimed that Dr. Besigye, who was Museveni's qualified personal doctor in the bush, they claimed that he had used another person's marks to join Kitante Senior Secondary School in 1969. When Museveni is fighting his opponents, ladies and gentlemen, he stoops to any level and deploys every tool available for him. Unbelievably, the regime mobilized people from Dr. Besigye's village to come and claim that indeed he had used another person's academic documents 37 years earlier. As usual, the intention of the regime is not that such ridiculous moves will succeed. No. The intention of Museveni is usually to distract his challengers and keep them busy answering very nonsensical questions, to keep them busy in the courts of law, and of course, to embarrass them. Another case in point, ladies and gentlemen, which is related to what is happening now, is that in December 2004, when the Forum for Democratic Change first attempted to register as a political party, the state sponsored some individuals and other parties to ferociously fight against the registration of FDC. Various petitioners claimed that FDC was a rebel group, and they went ahead to challenge its slogan, its name, its symbols as being linked to rebel groups. Years later, a case would be filed in court seeking orders to block FDC from nominating candidates. Fellow Ugandans, I have labored to give this history first and foremost for the benefit of some of our brothers and sisters who were too young to follow these events. Let them know the history of their country. I invite them to read a book by Dr. Olive Kobusinje, known as The Correct Line, and to also read Daniel Karinaki's book, Kizza Besigye and Uganda's Unfinished Revolution. They will understand the character and nature of Yoweri Museveni, the man who has ruled over our nation for the last 35 years. Secondly, so when I proceeded to secondary school, I went to St. Maria Goretti Secondary School in Katende for my Senior 1 first term. That was 1993. For Senior 1 second term, up to Senior 3, I was at Brain Trust Academy in Rubaga. That was 1993 to 1995. For my Senior 4, I went to Chitante Hill School, and that is where I did my Senior 4, the Uganda Certificate of Education, in 1996. For Senior 5, first term, I went to Alliance Advanced School there in Kamocha Market. And that was, for Senior 5, second term, I went to Rubiri Secondary School. That was 1997. And unfortunately, that is the time where I lost my mother and I could no longer proceed with Rubiri Secondary School in boarding. So I had to leave. For Senior 5, third term, I went to Kololo Senior Secondary School, right there. Still in 1997, I stayed there until I completed my Senior 6 in November and December of 1998. I was then admitted to Makerere University for a bachelor's degree in social sciences. I studied for the whole year, majoring in anthropology, political science, and economics. But later, I dropped out of the course because I lacked tuition. I applied for a diploma in music, dance, and drama, still at Makerere University, because I was aiming at getting a government scholarship. I did not have the money. I had started, besides that, I had started picking interest in music and drama. In the year 2000, I was admitted on government sponsorship, on a government scholarship to study music, dance, and drama in Makerere University, and I graduated in 2003. The good thing is that for all my school life, for each of these schools I have mentioned, I studied with well-known people, celebrities, and outstanding people in society. And it is my hope and prayer that those people that I went to school with will come out and confirm the words that I'm saying. Ladies and gentlemen, in August of 2016, I decided to go back to school. This time, I wanted to pursue legal studies. I joined the International University of East Africa in Kansanga for my law degree. A few months later, when Cavendish University opened a law school here in Kamocha, I transferred from IUEA because Kamocha was much nearer to my workplace, Firebase, which used to be here. I also did a short course in leadership for 21st century at Harvard. I'm currently enrolled at the Southern New Hampshire University for further studies. I've had to put both my studies at Cavendish and SNHU on a hold on account of my busy schedule and the ongoing persecution. But God willing and time permitting, I hope to complete those courses at the right time. By this time, I'm sure that the question on everybody's mind is why I was always moving from one school to another. Well, I have told this story many times, but let me repeat it right here. That my life was a hustle. My life was ghetto life. My life was a struggle. And I'm not ashamed of that. That is what made me the man I am today. My father had more than 30 biological children and many other dependents. And this put a lot of pressure on his finances. Actually, apart from the fact that my father considered me very brilliant, one of the reasons why he was desperate to see me skip classes and finish school was to avoid the cost of school fees. That is why it was good for him financially when I skipped classes. My mother too, in my formative years, was not doing so well, and yet she had 10 biological children and other dependents to look after, all by herself. So I found that I had to move from school to school because of school fees problems. Some well-to-do Ugandans may not understand this, but I'm sure the poor people, the ghetto people, understand this kind of life. And I'm a real product of ghetto life. I am proud of this history because my greatest motivation is that. And I want to change the lives of these people because I understand their hustle. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, no simple task. You lose friends, you are stabbed in the back, you are persecuted, you are prosecuted, you are slandered, you are maligned, you are embarrassed, you are threatened, you are attacked from every corner. And yes, by every Tom, Dick, and Harry. While you are fighting for the oppressed, the dictator uses the oppressed people to oppress you. While you are still dealing with one thing, the regime brings another. While you conclude one battle, the regime is already manufacturing 10 more battles for you. And if you're not careful, you can easily faint and give up. But you must persevere, brothers and sisters. You must keep your focus. You must not lose your head. You must be tough. You must be solid. You must be ghetto. That out there are millions of people that look up to you, that you must keep confident. These are the lessons that I've learned from Dr. Kizza Besigye, from Nelson Mandela, from Malcolm X, from Martin Luther King. And yes, I hope the ghetto people out there are learning lessons from my experience while I'm still alive. Dictators, ladies and gentlemen, have no shame. Their tools too have no shame. My wife and I have been left in so much wonder, seeing some of the people who are very close to us, people who we helped so much, and yes, those who helped us, turning around to do unbelievable things against us. We sometimes watch in utter shock some of the people who were previously closest to us saying unbelievable things about us. We have come to learn, we took on, and yes, we've come to learn the kind of responsibility and duty we took on. But I encourage you, comrades, to brace yourselves for even more heartbreaks. That is the cost of fighting for freedom. But you know we shall win, because we have no option but to win. Now, regarding the Electoral Commission, the Uganda National Examination Board, and other state institutions, I'm aware that several lawyers and public individuals have written asking for information regarding the academic papers of President Museveni, his wife, and several other NRM ministers. You have already taken much longer to respond to their request than the time you took to release my academic papers. I am challenging you to release them with the same urgency, since you claim to be acting independently and within the law. Ugandans want to be sure if indeed President Museveni has the qualifications that he claims to have, that he was born when he claims to have been born. And yes, they want to be sure if he's really a Ugandan. This is a debate that has taken so many years and it needs to be concluded. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen. No luzungu, na londo